My guest today on episode 63 of the Ikigai Podcast is Waki Kamino, a PhD student at Cornell University in human-robot interaction and research at Indiana University, Bloomington. Thanks for joining me today, Waki.
Thanks for having me.
So I was doing some Google searches. I'm always doing Google searches to find new research on Ikigai. And I came across your paper, Making Meaning Together, Co-Designing a Social Robot for Older Adults with Ikigai Experts. I thought, wow, that's interesting. And as you know, I recorded an episode with one of your contributors to your paper, Natasha Randell, who I interviewed on episode 54 on her paper, Finding Ikigai, How Robots Can Support Meaning in Later Life. And you contributed to her paper as well. So I guess you guys have been sharing notes on Ikigai for the past year or so?
Yeah, actually, we both are part of this big collaborative project, just ongoing, which started in 2020 between Indiana University Bloomington and Toyota Research Institute in the United States. And so, yeah, we're both part of this big ongoing project. Actually, I think you've met Dr. Shinichi Nagata at Tsukuba University. He's actually part of the project as well.
Oh, wow. There we go. Small world. Small world in the world of Ikigai and robots design. So it's fascinating. And I was reflecting, wow, we're probably not too far off with all the advancement of AI and all these AI tools we're seeing. So this could be a reality, in the next couple of years.
It's insane. It's insane.
So with that, what attracted you to study human-robot interaction?
So I think I'm kind of a researcher more interested in human size, and I'm always interested in human behavior. But it's big, what it means to be a human and how do we act in public spaces or in presence of others? What kind of emotions do we have? So I think for me, at least, HRI gives me a more accessible window to study human behavior. Then you get to talk to a lot of different people like engineers, social scientists, psychologists, designers. It's really all exciting.
Awesome. So HRI is human robot interaction.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, human robot interaction.
just make sure for our audience. That's one of the things with your paper is like that paper was a lot of work. There are lots of citations and must have taken you months. And yeah, I had to go back and keep reminding myself, what are these initials stand for again? So so well done. How long did it take you to put this paper together?
Actually, before interviewing those participants who are Ikigai experts, I actually went through Ikigai training. So including the preparation, I think it took about, gets rejected and review and everything. So I think overall 2 years.
Oh, gee. Wow.
Yeah, but I think actual writing and preparation was about half a year or a year or something. But then its audience is a bit different from, the audiences are roboticists or social roboticists. So we have to kind of make sure the messages are clear for those who don't know anything about Ikigai. So that took a while as well.
2 years and half a year on just writing. I think I said this actually on the podcast with Natasha. It's like you're spending the same amount of time that you would on writing a book, yet it's very niche, and your target audience who would read your paper is quite small. So it's a lot of work to put into a paper where readership might be at best in the hundreds or hopefully a few thousand. So
yeah, I know.
So I hope this podcast helps your paper get widely read.
Thank you so much. We've known your work for quite a while, actually, by the way. We've been following your work for a while.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good to know. Awesome.
I mean, it's great. Yeah.
It's a strange word because I was introduced to the word back in 1998 when I first went to Japan, like on my third trip to Japan, very casually. And then 20 years later, you've probably heard this story. I saw the Venn diagram and I thought, I remember that word, but that's not what it means, I think. And then that inspired me to really research the concept. And yeah, I keep bumping into these amazing people online who graciously come onto the podcast and have these really meaningful and engaging conversations. So it's been life-changing for me.
I think, you know, when we first came across your, Ikigai Tribe thing, we're just doing Google search as well. And it was like, Ikigai Tribe, what is that? And you're Australian, right? And this other guy running this Ikigai Tribe, defending the Japanese like concept. I was like, what is it?
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I'm always a little bit worried that, who's this Aussie guy, you know, maybe profiteering from Ikigai or, certainly not culturally appropriating, but...
I think you understand Ikigai much better than a lot of us. And I think you're doing a fascinating job of connecting all these people who are interested in Ikigai. So you're at the center of the hub, and I think your work is great.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, it's real joy. I never imagined I'd be talking to all these people across the globe on this fascinating concept that's articulated by this one word, and it is unique. And that's what makes Japanese so fascinating. They have hundreds of words like this that articulate a way of thinking or a philosophy or a psychology. And yeah, Ikigai is one of them. So with that, I think we could touch on this quote at the introduction of your paper by one person I wish I could interview, and obviously I can't because she passed away a long time ago, I think in 1979, and that is Miyako Kamiya. So would you like to share that quote and touch on her contribution to Ikigai literature?
Yeah, sure. So I quoted, "What can be said from the beginning without having to bother with research is that fact that there is nothing more necessary than Ikigai for human beings to live vigorously."
Love that quote. I've actually got a very similar translation of that in my book. So her book is amazing. There's so many quotes I pull out from her book. Yeah. So what do you know of Kamiya Miyako or Miyako Kamiya?
I think as far as we understand, she's the pioneer in Ikigai research, really the catalyst back in 1960. And so she's really the one as from perspective of, I guess, clinical psychiatrist, started this up, asking this question of what it really means to have Ikigai, what makes one's life worth living. And her work, I think she basically theorized what constitutes Ikigai and made a clear distinction, which is Ikigai as a source of Ikigai and feeling of Ikigai. I think that really, her work is still really highly influential across different fields today, is what I understand.
Yeah, that's my go-to answer for the question, what's Ikigai? Is, you have Ikigai sources or Ikigai objects, and then you have Ikigai Kan. It's something you feel and even like embody. You can feel it in your body sometimes. So yeah, it'd be good to see her work published in other languages, but I think that's unlikely. I've checked the copyright and it's 70 years in Japan. So there's like another 15 years before we could freely translate her book into English. But
wow.
Yeah, she was amazing. She was also a translator, a linguist. She tutored the former Empress Michiko. She has the most incredible CV. So yeah, very inspiring person. But moving on, to explore how social robots might be able to support people's Ikigai, you performed in-depth interviews with 12 Ikigai experts who formally support and or study older adults. So we should be clear, this is about older adults, the study.
Yep.
And you also did some workshops, which I'm quite interested in. So yeah, let's start with these experts you interviewed. I think I know a few of them. So yeah, who were they? And what were some of the questions you asked them?
Yeah, so we interviewed academics who study Ikigai first. So Dr. Akihiro Hasegawa and Dr. Gordon Matthew. Dr. Hasegawa is a leading scholar in Ikigai psychology in Japan, and Dr. Gordon Matthew is an anthropologist whose work kind of does, cross-cultural comparison of Ikigai and touches upon social cultural implications. And then we also interview people who work at these organizations, government-funded organization to formally support older adults Ikigai here. There's the places called Ikigai centers or Ikigai information centers. And so the employees there, particularly we were interested in what kind of programs they run and how exactly they support older adults Ikigai. And then we also interviewed this program called Ikigai Advisors in Japan. So these are certified older adults themselves who are kind of qualified to give advice to other older adults in the community to make their lives more fulfilling. And yeah, these are the people. And we also invited people who run Inamino Gakuen, which is Inamino Senior Citizens College, the oldest senior citizens college in some sort. And they promote Ikigai. So we invited all these people. Questions. We ask about what they do and how they define Ikigai, and as well as kind of what kind of factors they observe that influence Ikigai on older adults. We also kind of ask what they thought about robots and the use of social robots to support older adults. So these are some of the questions.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions. So it looked like quite a project, interviewing these experts and partaking or organizing these workshops and speaking to these Ikigai advisors. Maybe when I'm 65, I'll return to Japan and see if I can become a Ikigai advisor.
The textbook is really thick. It's like, oh my goodness, it's actually pretty hardcore.
The training. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have like quizzes and everything, and the textbook is really thick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to start Googling and see if I can find some information
we can
on
send
that.
you the book. We can get it online.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, actually, Hasegawa Sensei was the first guest on my podcast, and he was so courageous because we did this in English, and I'll always be so grateful to him. And then Gordon Matthews was my third guest, but I'm actually interviewing him this week as well. He's released a new book about senses of death for Americans, Japanese, and Chinese. So that'll be interesting.
That's interesting.
So I've got this very open question. So maybe we'll get into all the details later on. But what did your interview findings reveal?
Oh, these, lived knowledge of how exactly they run programs and stuff, what kind of programs they run, how the collaboration works with the government. But I think apart from that, the biggest takeaway was the shared understanding of Ikigai from social relation perspective, which is the 3 levels of Ikigai. So the first person Ikigai is about this, yourself, self-realization, doing hobbies on your own, things like that. And the second person Ikigai involves people close to the person. So traveling with close friends or connecting with the family members. And the third person has to do with others. So like volunteering or, being useful to the community or something like that. And I think this perspective, or rather framework, really made Ikigai more digestible for us. And I was really fascinated by how, the experts kind of from their background, they can define Ikigai in their own way, but acknowledges the huge room for interpretation and how it can be, sliced differently depending on what your expertise is. And yeah, it was quite interesting.
It's a very helpful explanation, because there are some people who don't have a large social world and they prefer to do things by themselves. So you can have that first person Ikigai, or you can have, all 3. But I remember Gordon Matthews in his book talking about how it is tied to your social world and your roles and your connections, and also your contribution to society and the sense of meaning you have. So yeah, this is a very helpful structure. And there are quite a few frameworks, but I like this one. It's easy to remember.
It's from Ikigai Advisor's textbook as well. I
Oh,
think
really?
they have the shared understanding of this, and they emphasize that, there's nothing wrong with it, even just one, having one area of Ikigai. It's ideal if you can expand it to have 3 levels, but if you start with 1 or 2, that's all fine. So it was really encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that idea. It is individualistic. It's personal and different. Yeah, different to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads to, I guess, this question I ask everyone, and I'll ask you later, but how did some of these experts define Ikigai? Were there any, not conflict, but were there any sort of definitions that were quite different to each other, or ones that you thought were a bit unusual?
I guess Dr. Matthews was saying that Ikigai is not self-realization. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was really clear about that.
Yes.
I think the other experts really embrace that it can be self-realization, and it can be something, noble, like admirable, whatever, like chasing the dreams, getting better at things. But I think a lot of them, especially those who work in the government or government-funded organization, they were more focused on like small things, like a tiny happy moment in your life that, I like the term, I like the words one participant said. I think it was like Ikigai is like a small patchwork collection of little joys. And yeah,
I
I
like
think
that too.
I like that. So yeah, there's different scales they're talking about, but overall, I think most of them kind of embrace the spectrum. And Dr. Hasegawa, I think he mentioned, it's important to not shy away from the negative or painful experiences you have in your life, because life is especially with older adults, I think they have the rich accumulation of life, and just trying to embrace those negative moments and how they overcome these can be part of Ikigai. So it was quite
It's quite a broad concept, touches
really
on
broad.
hedonic happiness, I guess, and eudaimonia. And
Yeah.
it can be, for some people, the pursuit of meaningful goals and maybe self-actualization. Or as Ken Moggy describes it, as a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But I did make a mental note thinking, that's a great way to describe it, a patchwork of, the things in your life.
I mean, it doesn't make research easier, the fact that it's so broad. But I think it's fascinating. They all kind of embrace the room for interpretation and the shared understanding of that this is important, but it doesn't have to be this specific way. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a good point, that idea of, life has ups and downs, and we can take meaning from our struggles and painful experiences. And one line stood out, was that for some people, I think one person said, I want to live longer than that bastard, to spite someone who's had a negative, they've had a negative interaction with.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that about Ikigai. So
me neither, but whatever works, I think.
But I've actually got a very close friend who has a very difficult relationship that she cannot remove herself from. And she pretty much says, and she has some serious health challenges, but this difficult relationship really gives her strength. And she says pretty much,
awesome.
Same sort of thing. I'm not going to die until
I'm going to outlive this person.
So that connected to that. That was interesting. So this leads to the question of you. How would you define, or how do you define Ikigai if you're asked?
Like based on what, summarize their opinions, or how I define my own, or
your own go-to definition of Ikigai.
I think That's a tricky one. I think for now, as someone in my, 20s, I'd say my Ikigai is pursuit of growth and change.
Nice.
But if I incorporate what I've learned from this study, I would say probably the source of appreciation and motivating force in life.
Nice. Yeah, that change and growth, I think that's the second need of Kamiya has those 7 Ikigai needs.
Yeah.
And to satisfy Ikigai Khan, you should try and satisfy, you don't have to satisfy all of them, but change and growth is, it's a great Ikigai need. So
yeah,
I can relate. Yeah, I'm always trying to change and grow. So
I think then I feel like older adults have more past, I guess, than a future, to put it in a blunt way. So they, have a lot of time to reflect on great things that happen in their life. But I guess to be happy about certain things, it takes, I guess, perspective or gratitude. And for that, I think it takes perspective as well. But yeah, so there's room. I think there's a lot of opportunity for just appreciating things in life, and that could lead to Ikigai as well, is what I learned from these experts.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess as we get older, we become limited in what we can do. So perhaps we become more reflective, and hopefully we go to, powerful memories or fond memories rather than focusing on, I can't do this or that anymore.
Yeah.
And so one thing I beginning to notice how with Japan's rapidly aging population, how Ikigai is this important consideration in government policy.
Yeah.
And do you want to touch on that and the type of preventative measures and programs that the government in Japan introduce?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Hasegawa also has a paper on how Ikigai has been popularized in Japan as well. But yeah, essentially, the promotion of older adults' Ikigai and health within the government policy is a preventive measure in order to extend older adults' health life expectancy and therefore reduce the costs associated with care. So that's a big one. And I think older adult leadership, like older adult Ikigai advisors, people like that are kind of a driving force of this thing, right? They're kind of doing the work on behalf of the government in a way. So yeah, there's this background, I think.
Yeah, and there are Ikigai cafes or Ikigai salons and Ikigai community centers, and the government wants, a healthy aging population that's still engaging with society, and hopefully that reduces all these medical costs if they're active and they have a strong sense of well-being.
It makes sense. And they are aware of it, the older adults, and even feel the sense of purpose in that as well, doing the job. But it makes sense because if you look at their programs, most of them, half of them are like hobby oriented, facilitate social participation, like flower, calligraphy, whatever. But then the half of it is more exercise oriented. So, mountain climbing and things like that. And you can clearly see what they're trying to achieve by doing these things.
That's a great project. Should be a universal kind of initiative. And maybe it will.
Like things like this in Australia?
I think there are, but we don't have the same aging population as Japan.
Right, yeah.
So that's, your paper was so large, and I thought, where do I go? There are potentially so many areas to discuss, and you're sharing this knowledge from experts and also from these older adults. So let's talk about Ikigai factors and influences. What were the factors the experts discussed that could affect individual older adults' Ikigai?
Definitely gender is big, especially with that generation we're talking about. Women were often, staying home and raising children. So when the children become independent, they sometimes lose a sense of ikigai. And for men, obviously, it's work. After retirement, all of them don't know what they're doing. There's just like a place in society, people to talk to, and things like that. Also, I think there is a lot of discussion about how kind of financial security affects the older adults to whether they can pursue ikigai activities, and also health. These two things, financial security and physical health, are the fundamental, I think, needs that human have, and in order to pursue ikigai, it's important to have these two things covered.
Yeah, the one about men is interesting. I mean, specifically Japanese men who retire. And ironically, my previous guest, who's an expert on ibashol theory or ibashol, despite being an expert on the concept, now that he's retired, he's struggling because he doesn't have an ibashol. And he worked at Sophia University and now he's retired, and he's like, if I could speak to my younger self, I would say, make sure you establish an ibashol, in your community. So this loss of ikigai is quite significant, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think also, given the context, especially like Japanese people tend to work at the same company for the entire life. And so it's like 40 years of your life at this point. And now you're like thrown out, and where do I go? Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, that's changing. That lifetime employment was, I guess, on one hand, it was a gift, like, you've got that security. But at the end of it, you better have a plan.
Yeah, I don't think many of them even question the way of living, working at the same company for the entire life. It's just the way it was. And I guess it kind of goes back to Dr. Gordon Matthews, how social, cultural norms affect the way people think about their own ikigai, I think.
Yes. His book on ikigai blew my mind, and it made me think, gee, to some degree, we're not even in control of our ikigai sources. Like, they're kind of pushed on us, or they're influenced by our institutions, our relationships. And you definitely, if work is your ikigai, you'll definitely lose it unless you're I don't know, an entrepreneur who loves to work and you're going to work till the day you die or something.
It's really hard, even like I think for us talking about this type of thing and studying this thing on a daily basis. But I remember in March I was in France and I was staying with French friends, and I was opening my email around like 8 p.m. and my friend would say, "That's insane that you're opening your work email at night."
Oh, wow.
It's insane. Like, you don't do that in France, and it's kind of like even illegal for bosses to send emails to employees after work time. Wow. So I didn't even question that, and she was just like, that American work culture is mental. And and just the fact that I know it's kind of mental compared to their way of living doesn't mean I can change it either. So yeah, it really made me think about it.
Wow, I didn't know that. Gee, time for us to move to France and
I know.
work there. Yeah, I can't help myself. It's quite hard. Even when you work for yourself, you definitely have all these freedoms, but I still find myself, checking emails and thinking, I've got to line up these interviews, and I'll sometimes be doing podcast interviews at 8 p.m. So, but I love what I do, so that's okay. So let's move on and touch on Ikigai aiding technology. What was mentioned by the experts in that area?
I think a lot of the overarching theme, or something that kind of penetrates the daily life, the fabric, something that you use every day and not even question it. The another thing is really smartphones, yes. sorry, I didn't mention that the smartphones or televisions or things like that. But it was really interesting. One participant mentioned Pokemon Go, and never thought about that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense though, because I think it covers all three levels of Ikigai.
Ah,
If you catch Pokemons, it's fun to level up and improve and learn new species and everything. And then, you can talk to Pokemon Go with your grandchildren. And if you go to Pokestops, you get to talk to other older adults in the area. Fascinating observation from one of the employees who work at the town hall or something, and he observed that like every certain hours of the day, there's just older adults gathering and looking at
wow.
Pokemon.
Really?
So he was wondering what was going on, and it was just Pokemon Go, just mingling. They catching Pokemons for their grandchildren while they were in school,
Oh,
at
wow.
school.
I
So
never
that's
imagined older
yeah,
adults would be doing that. Yeah.
I know it's genius, like, and yeah, so that was really interesting.
Well, that's on the theme of, I guess, cuteness. Let's talk about the robot that was used in this study. Is it the Lux AI QT?
Yeah, we call them Iris now because we kind of moderating, we're modifying the robot. It's not just Iris is sorry, QT is a platform that we purchased from Lux AI, and we creating our own robots using the platform. My professor named our robot Iris, interactive robot for Ikigai support.
Ah, there we go.
So yeah, but it looks cute, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up. It is a cute little robot,
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
big smiley face. Yeah, so what was the general feedback of the Ikigai experts in relation to, I guess, Iris or this idea of social robot?
Yeah, yeah. I was expecting a little bit of like, concerns or, I mean, they had concerns, but I think overall it was really positive. They said it's really cute. You can talk to them, you can talk to the robot, or, you can sing with the robot. They instantly came up with activities that they want to do with the robot. So if the older adult was running the singing program, they wanted to use it for the karaoke in the community center and exercise, like a facilitator, these things. And I think I was really impressed by how they were interested in the technical aspect of the robot as well. I got asked a lot of questions related to AI and algorithm and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. It is fascinating, and I am imagining we all might end up having some sort of assistant or companion, all of us, in 10 years from
Yeah.
now.
It's not that far-fetched. I think in Japan, people are now living with robots. A lot of them like the block-shaped one or like a penguin-looking ones, or it's like a subculture. It's really emerging. And there's like a bunch of cafes here. You can bring your own robot as a companion. So, it's not really far-fetched, I think. It's near future thing where, yeah.
Yeah, even a few years ago, I saw it wasn't a documentary, but it was more like a news segment on YouTube. And it was this Japanese elderly couple, and they were a bit lonely and they didn't want the responsibility of a pet.
Yeah.
And so they had a robot. And it was really interesting. Every time, but the robot was like self-learning. Every time the algorithm knew there was this new word or this new situation or condition, it would confirm that new word or that new situation by asking a question, does this thing, I don't know, make you laugh, or does this phrase make you feel happy?
Mhm.
And so I thought, wow, it's sort of self-learning, or it's got this algorithm behind it. So in future, it will do the same similar behavior or the same behavior to generate a positive response from the user. And first I thought, oh, wow, this is crazy. Like, what's going on?
I
But
know.
here we are talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, and a lot of older adults say it's a necessity in a country like Japan, for those especially living alone. And yeah, a lot of time they mention this like a concept of kodokushi, which is like a lone death. They wanted to use a robot to kind of watch older dogs and also be a companion at the same time.
Yeah, that's very sad. Kodoku and kodokushi. Kodoku meaning
Yeah.
alone, and shi meaning death. And there are now cleaning companies dedicated to cleaning out the apartments of people who've died alone. And it's pretty shocking. I think 3 men die alone every hour in Japan or something. Like, it's
Wow.
quite a big
Wow.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a company who has got a YouTube channel, and they kind of, I mean, it's sad, but it's quite interesting that they share the process of cleaning out apartments, and they make money by selling the white goods. And often something's gone tragically wrong in these men's lives with their families, and they'll ring the families and they just say, we don't want anything. We don't want the inheritance. We don't want anything to do with it. Just take care of it. And you think, gee, what must have happened to destroy this family to the point where even in death, they don't really want to have anything to do with this father or brother. So it's very
Yeah.
sad.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And when you interview older dogs, like you will be amazed how often they know someone who died that way.
Oh, really? Oh.
It's a real thing. And yeah, it's terrifying to
Hmm.
think about that. But
Well, as you said, hopefully robot design can help prevent lonely deaths. And you noted there were 3 important considerations that the experts discussed or made note of. So would you like to touch on them?
yeah, sure.
Because one was companionship and emotional support.
Yeah, and also the room for personalization. Obviously, you guys are so diverse and unique to each individual. The robot has to be able to adapt to their own needs and desires. But you know, sometimes people want more obedient ones just to listen to them, or some there's one particular order that really wants to be challenged by the robot intellectually.
Oh,
So he didn't want anything predictable. All these things could be done by designing the personalization features, I think. And another thing was the risk management related to the Kodokushi lone death idea. So while, you know, improving, well, supporting the activities that can lead to Ikigai, also it's important to manage the risk that can lead to the loss of Ikigai, health concern, things like that. And yeah, so these 3 things emerge as a theme, I think.
yeah, a few examples that stood out as a bit interesting or funny for me. One was that if the robot noticed the user had a haircut, it would compliment the user saying, "Oh, you had a haircut today," and that's
Yeah,
lovely. And the other one was, this is the funny one, like, would you want to be told if you had a nose hair? Okay.
yeah,
Like for some long
they're
nose hairs.
hilarious.
So,
I know. But I think there's like a tiny moments in everyday life is the one that become really memorable. So it's like laughing so hard when I was hearing this, but then that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
You wouldn't want to be walking around all day with a long nose hair and then you come home and realize, oh no, I've been
I know.
looking like a fool. So that was funny, yeah. So let's touch on the workshop sessions. Do you want to briefly go through those and what was involved?
Yeah, so we showed a short video of Iris actually introducing yourself and talking about what you can do, basic things like talking, exercises, learn about the user, and then we move on to kind of developing scenarios based on the 3-level Ikigai frameworks. So the potential ways in which this robot can be used to promote Ikigai to make failure, first person, second person, third person. Give you an example. First person, just obviously helping the individual user with hobbies or getting new knowledge or whatever. And then the second person, Ikigai, connecting with families, like a telepresence robot or things like that, or even connecting with the primary doctor relate to the risk management. And the third person is kind of connecting the people in the community by either giving information about what things are going on in the events or things like that in the local community, or providing if people in the local area going to some other events or news, or connecting older adults to the wider world, I guess. So that ideas came up in the second section, and then we also as a last session we talk about potential concerns or questions that they might have.
Awesome. Let's talk about what the experts suggested in terms of areas of improvement.
Okay, the voice was by far the biggest concern. Older adults have to be able to listen to and understand what the robot is saying. Also, this warm voice versus machine-like voice type of thing, and the perception might differ. And minor things are limited mobility, and our robots cannot move. So there's that. The size of face monitor with their eyes. And yeah, another thing interesting was the plastic body might feel a little bit cold. They wanted some haptic touch element to it, so they didn't want to touch the cold plastic. And yeah, and our robot asked too many questions.
Too many questions. Becomes an annoying robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, haptic, that was a new word. So that relates just to touch, how something feels, or haptic? Yeah.
Haptic, yeah.
Haptic. Cool. So how soon do you think Ikigai social robots for older adults will become commonplace? Or is
It might not be advertised as Ikigai, but I think it's already there. Like, personally speaking, I think a lot of people living with robots right now, they are taking the robots to trips and living with them, and they're living like it's their own kids. So, and then you hear a lot of stories about how they are afraid of like losing pets, or they don't have kids and stuff like that. So I think it's like, depending on who you ask, but if you ask these owners and ask, is this your Ikigai? And I think they would say yes.
Wow. Yeah, you could imagine if you develop an attachment to a robot and then, the robot's memory got accidentally erased or something, it would be significant loss to the user.
I mean, it might be irrelevant, but I hear a lot when I'm in Japan, people talking how this baseball player named Shohei Ohtani is their Ikigai. You can't believe how often you hear this while you're in Japan. So,
I mean, he's a rock star. Like, he's both a pitcher and batter, yeah? And just a cool guy, very, very calm, and
I know it's nothing to do with robots, but then it's kind of crazy how, I mean, I didn't even imagine that this phenomenon, like, I didn't know he existed like a couple of years ago and stuff. So it's insane. But
I mean, that is weird because I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, this famous person's my Ikigai."
I know,
because
they don't even know him in in person.
Because that's a perception of, that's like the best perception of that person, and he's obviously a great baseball player, and he's handsome, and he seems to have all these values and qualities Japanese appreciate. But yeah, as you said, no one, all these people don't really know him. And that's fame in a way, to say, oh, my Ikigai is someone else's fame.
It's interesting. I think it's also like has to do with our desire to be in awe of something greater, far, beyond their comprehension. And kind of, it's a bit religious. It sounds like a bit, but like, I'm a big fan as well. I don't know why, and then I was just thinking why. I don't even play baseball and stuff like that. I think it's just some being kind of intoxicated in the presence of Father is so great, and with religion not so popular here, it could be just like a symbolic thing. I don't know, but
I think you're on the money, because I remember reading an article saying why do we love sports so much, regardless of what sport it is. And this writer of the article made this argument. It gives us the chance to worship something that's not religious. And it's this collective experience. We all go to the football or soccer or baseball. And when we see a home run or we see a goal, we all jump up and scream and celebrate. We're ecstatic. It's this collective experience. And for the brief moment or for a couple of hours, yeah, we're kind of on this high.
Yeah.
Especially if our expectation or our hope is met. Like if our team wins, we're going to be on a high for the rest of the evening. So maybe it's more, do you think it's more that rather than, you know, the player themselves? It's what they can do. And obviously there's this Ikigai Kan when you're celebrating a goal or a home run or a victory.
Yeah. And I guess the nationalism to it as well, like Japanese, he's Japanese, so
yes.
you know, we're Japanese
dominating America, both pitching and batting. Yeah,
I know. So the question is, can our role be superstar like him, or should we search for different ways to promote Ikigai, I guess?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I mean, I would say definitely sport, like going to support your team. In Australia, we have Australian rules football, and we're getting into the tail end of the season, and everyone's thinking, oh, will my team make the finals? And my team's having a reasonably good year. 2 weeks ago, we were winning. There's about 40 seconds to go. And then an opponent or a player from the opposing team, he kicked the goal after the siren and we lost. And I was just 1 minute, I'm like, all right, we're going to win. And the next I was like, you can't be serious. How could we lose
Devastating.
that?
Yeah.
And then the following week, we had a great game and we won. So I was really, really happy. And then last week, we lost the game in the first quarter. Like we were just completely smashed. And it's like, oh, do I want to watch the rest of the game now? Or I've just got to accept this loss and that's it. So yeah, watching sport can definitely be a strong Ikigai source. And maybe your favorite player sort of makes that sensation stronger.
Yeah.
Well, with that, what about you? What is your Ikigai, or what are some of, I mean, it's not always one thing. So yeah, what are some of your Ikigai sources?
I love learning new things. It's a typical boring PhD student answer. But yeah, I think I love diving into the unknown. Kind of gives me the rush of, adrenaline as well. The same, like kind of similar to when I'm watching sports, I guess. I think, yeah, learning new things. Typical student answer. But
I love the way you framed it, diving into the unknown. So I might steal that from you. That's a beautiful way to
I probably stole it from someone else anyway.
Awesome. Well, I definitely dived into the unknown with your paper and I learned a lot. And yeah, I can't believe how thorough it is and how much time it must have taken you. So
all the credit goes to the people who, generously share the lived knowledge to weird students from the US. So
oh, well, that's the beauty of the academic world. I've been amazed at how willing they are to share, especially to me, someone who's got basically no academic background. So
are you kidding? Like no one reads our paper, and when someone says, "I read your paper, can you talk about it?" Like, of course, we're like, we want to talk about it.
Well, with that, let's read the title of your paper again. So it's Making Meaning Together, Co-Designing a Social Robot for Older Adults with Ikigai Experts. I will link to the paper from this show notes. Yeah. Do you have a website, or if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best place for them to contact you?
I've got Twitter.
All right.
I've got Twitter. I've got ResearchGate. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Cornell's website. If you Google my name, the Twitter should show up, and feel free to DM me or send me email, whatever works.
Okay. Well, I'll link to all those web properties. I don't know what you call them. Yeah, Twitter and your ResearchGate. So yeah, any final thoughts or anything you want to say to end the podcast, Waki?
Oh, just thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure talking about research, and so good luck with your your journey. Sorry, one question I have. So I just wanted to ask you, what is it like? How does it change your life when you're doing Ikigai exploration as your job?
Oh, it's changed my life in ways you could never imagine. Before this, I've done many businesses, online businesses. So I've done Ekawa Kyozai. I have a language product for Japanese learning English. I used to help Amazon sellers sell on Amazon Japan. I did web design. I did SEO. And I always used to, try my best and serve my client. But I always thought, I'm always helping someone else's business. And it was just eventually became unfulfilling. And it's strange how this all came about because, I saw that Venn diagram one day and was reminded of the word. And then a best-selling book came out and TED Talks and blog posts, and all of it was factually incorrect. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Someone should do something about this. So it took me a few years to sort of build up the courage, I guess, to think, well, okay, I'll do something about it. And it's strange. It just started with this decision to find a domain name. Hopefully I can interview someone. Podcasts I'd done before, so it was really easy for me to build a website and start a podcast. I just thought if I can get one guest who's an author or a researcher, that'd be a really good way to kickstart the podcast. And then, before I knew it, I was finding guests. Most were saying yes. And then, oddly, like in the back of my head, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could make like a video course on all this knowledge and maybe sell it and make some money out of this. But my intention was always to offer a authentic and respectful perspective of Ikigai to the audience. And then, some people just started writing me saying, do you have like a coaching program? I want to coach this concept. And I was like, okay. How do I reply to that? Like it's not something coached in Japan, and it's kind of a word Japanese don't even really talk about that much. But I thought, there is this huge body of research from the 1960s, and it's growing, and it is relatable to well-being and positive psychology. So it's become this amazing journey, and it's not always easy. It's quite hard to find guests, and there's a lot of reading. Reading your paper took a while, but it's really gratifying that so many researchers and authors are happy to come onto the podcast. And I even did a Ikigai Summit earlier this year, and that was a great success. So the next step, I guess, would be going to Japan and meeting everyone, and maybe doing workshops and even Ikigai retreats or something. I don't know. So
that would be amazing.
Yeah, so you'll have to join me.
I know. Keep us updated, please. I think it's great.
Yeah, you and Natasha will definitely have a spot. So we could, wouldn't it be cool to do like a big workshop together and have all these researchers and authors and experts share it over a weekend or something? So
that would be awesome. Our colleagues are often coming to Japan for this project, and we have Tsukuba University as a collaborator and stuff like that. So I am sure we'll cross our paths like sometimes. Right.
Well, I'll definitely keep in touch. So thank you so much for your paper, your time today, and let's do this again.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. See you later. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ikigai Podcast. To learn more about Ikigai or to become a certified Ikigai Tribe coach, visit ikigaitribe.com.